Well, the LA Rams, one of the teams that is not in the top 10 in this week's final regular season PFT Power Rankings. We post them on Tuesday. We talk about them here on Wednesday with some of your input and your questions. And for the second straight week, the Buffalo Bills. Do you feel differently this week about the Bills as the potential number one team? I mean, the Chiefs called off the Dogs. They rested key players. Patrick Mahomes didn't play. They lost to the Chargers. But I was so impressed by what the Bills did against a Dolphins team that was trying to get to the playoffs and to hang 56 on the number one scoring defense in the NFL. And the hesitation to take out the starters. I really do think Sean McDermott is aware of the fact that they've got their foot on the gas, not at a red light in a drag race setting, but they're afraid to take it off.
I think so, too. I think you're exactly right. I mean, you got to go, and you got your mojo going. You know, we've seen a lot of teams through history kind of go through the kind of stretch they're going where, okay, maybe you lose a game around week 9, 10, or 11, and all of a sudden you go on this run and you had to play it out through the playoffs, and that continues, and you never lose a game for the rest of the season. I mean, that's gone on a lot through NFL's history, those kind of runs. So I understand that. And to your question, yes, that made me think differently. I mean, we were already thinking differently, but like you said it, nobody can get in the end zone against the Miami Dolphins. They're the kings of making you kick field goals. And Buffalo made it look like 56, no problem. We could score 86 if we want today. That's not an issue. That was extremely impressive, both sides of the football. The Bills and the Packers, I think, made me think differently about those two teams more than any two teams down the month of December. The Packers, you know my thoughts. I think you were there with me where I went, they're good. I'm just not sold. It's a lot of Rodgers magic. To where the last few weeks I've gone, man, defense seems tougher and grittier. Offense seems to be able to run it and do whatever it wants now. And I just look at both of them and go, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a Packers-Bills Super Bowl. They're both kind of kicking butt.
Yeah, and the Chiefs have shown that they can get it done in January.
No doubt.
That's the key.
Yes.
How much of December carries over into January where you know entering the game and throughout the entirety of the contest that if you lose, you are done. Playoff experience is critical. Dealing with adversity in the postseason is critical. This is where we make that shift from regular season vibe to postseason vibe. And I remember Rodney Harrison explaining this to me years ago, that everything changes in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It's faster, it's more intense, and the guys who haven't been there before are the ones who are more likely to freak out in the moment. The guys who have been there and done that, they understand how it is. And when you look at what the Chiefs did last year, down 24 to the Texans, down 10 twice in the first half to the Titans, down 10 with 7 minutes left in the Super Bowl, they are not going to freak out in the moment. And they probably like the fact that guys like us are saying how great the Bills are right now because that gives them a reason to have a little chip on their shoulder going into the postseason. And when the top dog has the chip on its shoulder, it's far more dangerous.
It's definitely more dangerous. We're not forgetting them at all. I mean, definitely not. They're still the kings of the hill. They still have the ability to make more magic than any other team we've seen in football and rise to, the challenge, the occasion, whatever it may be. So I'm not forgetting about them. And hey, they needed this rest. They needed to take a little last week off. You said it all year. They were hunted this year. It's not easy. You play a long season last year. You have a weird off season, and then everybody is gunning for you week after week after week, and you constantly have to kind of be on your A-plus, A game, be ready to go, answer the bell. It wore them out, and you could see it, and they needed to get healthy, and I think mentally refreshed and all those type of things. So that's why I'm excited about the playoffs, because we got some teams that are peaking at the right time, and, of course, we got the Chiefs who are amazing.
We've got the odds from PointsBet of NFL champion possibilities, the various teams at the top. Let's come up with a loose list of who we have the most confidence in right now of all the teams in the postseason field. Who do you believe is the most likely to win the Super Bowl? Are these odds accurate? The Chiefs the favorite at plus 220.
I think so. I think that's I see it that way at Kansas City. Again, I'm with you. Like, the Bills are right there with the Chiefs. Like I said last week, I'd still, if the Chiefs and Bills play tomorrow, I'm taking the Chiefs, even though I think the Bills are playing a little bit better. I got to see that magic of Kansas City squashed one time before I pick against them. Every time they need it, they make it happen. So I do go with them. I in front of me right here, I wrote Green Bay as number 2. And then I wasn't sure with Bills and Saints. That was where I have an arrow going each way. And I don't know, who do you feel more – well, obviously you feel more comfortable about Buffalo right now, right, than New Orleans?
Yeah, look, if I was doing these odds, I would go Kansas City first, then Buffalo. I know that Buffalo's major impediment is the Chiefs, but I feel better about the Bills beating the Chiefs than any team from the NFC beating the Chiefs, right?
Sure.
So why wouldn't the Bills be higher than the Packers and the Saints on the list of odds to win the Super Bowl? So when I see that, I think, well, if I was betting on this, I'd like the Bills at plus 750 because I think that one's off. And I like the Bucs at plus 1,000. Not that I would put them, ridiculously high on the list of teams most likely to win, but plus 1,000 sounds pretty good because I think the Buccaneers are the one team in the NFC that could win the Super Bowl if they can get there.
Sure.
The challenge is getting there. It's going to be hard to get there. I think when they get there, 2 weeks to prepare with Tom Brady, I think that they could give the AFC champion more of a run for their money than the other teams in the NFC. So you've got Kansas City, Green Bay, then Buffalo?
I think I would go Kansas City, Green Bay, and then Buffalo, barely over the Saints. I mean, Buffalo is where they are, I think, just because of one reason: lack of experience, right? Everybody wants to see, at least on the points bet thing, the points bet line there. I think that's the reason, or to answer your question. The Saints are ahead of them because, hey, it's Drew Brees, it's Aaron Rodgers, it's guys who have been there and done that. We haven't seen Buffalo do that yet, so I'm sure that's hindering them as far as gambling's concerned. But I would probably put the Bills slightly ahead of the Saints right now, but I don't feel really, really comfortable about that. I think Saints last few playoff struggles, Drew Brees not exactly making plays in the playoffs and doing things like that, that scares me a little bit, and that's why I do give the Bills the advantage.
Yeah, my top 5, now that we've thought this through and talked this through a little bit, are Chiefs, then Bills, then Buccaneers, then Packers.
Okay.
And I don't know. Ravens before Saints. Ravens before Saints. Ravens are too hot right now, and the Ravens are the team that can screw everything up. And they've got the attitude that we're going to come screw everything up. That's the thing. What they've that mindset that they've developed over the last 5 weeks, where it's just been we have to win, we have to win, we have to win, we have to win. They've built this bully that's going to show up and kick your butt. That's what I'm concerned about for these other teams, that they're going to be the potential disruptor. And even though they don't have a lot of playoff experience, I don't think they care at this point. It's line up and kick your butt. Line up and kick your butt. So I would even the thing with the Saints, and I'm impressed that the Saints keep getting back to the playoffs after having their hearts ripped out every year. But now we're back in that mode where they are accustomed to having their hearts ripped out. I don't know how they reverse that. It's 3 straight years of having their hearts ripped out. And how do you erase from your being, from your mind, from your soul, from anywhere in your body, the notion that here it comes again. It's going to happen again. It just keeps happening when we get into this single elimination atmosphere. So and the other issues with the Saints, the injuries of Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, and the Drew Brees deep ball, and it just feels like, for as good as they've been this year, it just feels like something's a little bit off.
I'm here. I hear you. I think that's why I put them fourth, is because of those questions. I do. But their defense is phenomenal. I think they are one of those teams that could upset things too in the NFC. Obviously, I do. When you have an offensive line like that and you can run the football the way they do, the way their defense is played really down the stretch, they're still a very, very scary football team. Definitely. So, but I think I'm Chiefs, Packers, Bills, Saints. And then this is where I'm stuck between the Bucs and the Ravens right now, with the Seahawks being the team that comes after those two right there. I think I'm with you, though. I think I have a little more trust in the Bucs than the Ravens. And I'm going to go Bucs there as my number 5, Ravens 6, Seahawks 7. That's kind of how I would feel as far as my Chris Sims comfort tree.
I may put the Seahawks ahead of the Saints. I'm sorry, Saints. I hate to do this,
Wow.
but I may. I'm thinking you put them on a field together. Now, Jamal Adams is going to be a huge factor in that.
Big factor.
He's got a shoulder injury
Right.
that may or may not allow him to play this weekend. But the Seahawks have that experience. You've got a quarterback who's a Hall of Famer with 2 Super Bowls under his belt and playoffs almost every year. You've got a coach who's been there and done that. Every year we have to remind ourselves, don't overlook the value of extensive postseason experience.
Sure.
Brady is the king of it, but when we look at these other teams over the years and high level of achievement, you've got the Seahawks are number 2. You think it's the Saints, but the Seahawks have been to 2 Super Bowls. The Saints have been to 1, and they've got the same coach and the same quarterback and a lot of the other same guts of the organization. The players have changed dramatically, obviously, but I think there's value in that for both the Seahawks and the Saints.
No, I agree. I think there's more recent battle tests, tested factors maybe in Seattle, even though it's been a few years, yes. But there's, Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright and Russell Wilson who were there for it all, who still understand that. There's nobody left of that New Orleans team that won the Super Bowl back then except for Drew Brees and Sean Payton. That's all there is to it. But I still think their experience, their toughness, their grittiness, they match up very well with Chicago. I still think they're going to have something to be said here. I would not be shocked if we were sitting there Championship Sunday and the New Orleans Saints were involved in that football game. The NFC in general, I just look at that and go, a few weeks ago, I think I would have gone, the AFC is clearly better than the NFC. But when you really talk about, in my opinion, the top 4 teams in the NFC, which would be Green Bay, New Orleans, Seattle, and Tampa Bay, I think they have closed the gap. And I'm not so sure their top 4 teams aren't better than the top 4 teams of the AFC now, where we sit and how those teams are playing right now. Because I'm not going to put like Pittsburgh and Tennessee. Yeah, I got questions about them. Yeah, Buffalo and Kansas City were good. But, man, Tennessee, I think you and me could go out there and put up 30 points on offense against that defense. So that's a little. No, probably not. But that's.
What position would I be playing?
We'd have to make you automatic snapper. I think that is what we'd have to do. Automatic snapper, and then have bodyguards next to you to make sure you don't get run over.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
But I don't know. That's how I feel a little. Yeah, go ahead.
That was the question that Sweetness posed via Twitter. Now that the regular season is over, how does the AFC stack up against the NFC? And here's the other side of it too. By the time you have the AFC champion face the NFC champion, there will be more games that have been played. Teams will feel better about themselves. That idea of being the one who emerges from the cluster. If I don't know how much better the Chiefs will feel about themselves if they emerge, but I could see the NFC champion having some extra swagger, confidence, belief going into the Super Bowl by way of navigating this playoff field, especially if you win a game or 2 on the road. If you're the Buccaneers and you go to Lambeau Field and beat the Packers, maybe in the championship game, to punch your ticket to the Super Bowl played in your home stadium. That's the one factor we can't overlook, and that's why I feel better about the Buccaneers on this list of who we think is most likely to win the Super Bowl. If the Buccaneers get there, they're staying at home all week. They're staying at home. They're in their facility. And I know that the travel realities will have the other teams there too, but I'm talking about in your stadium, in your place, in your habitat. I think that's a huge advantage for the Buccaneers if they end up getting to the Super Bowl, Chris.
I don't disagree with that. Yes, anytime you don't have to leave your comfort zone, that's always a positive as a football player, to be able to be in your facility, Super Bowl 2 weeks basically, and just feel, hey, I get to come home to my house, my bed, do all of that. That is a great advantage. My only thing I would go, because as you were talking there, I was going, wait, was there any negative to that? The only negative I would think would just be, maybe it doesn't feel as special because you're at home, but I don't know if really that's a thing. That was the only negative aspect I could come up with.
Well, it's not going to feel special for the other team, though, either, because the other team's going to stay where they are.
Yeah.
It's treated like a road game in Tampa. If the teams that make it to the Super Bowl, and obviously the AFC representative will be treating it as a road game to Tampa. If it's any of the other teams in the NFC other than Tampa, same deal. It's like you're playing at Tampa, so it's not going to be like it is in any other year other than the game. But even for the game, it's not going to be like it is any other year because there's not going to be a full stadium of fans. Speaking of the Buccaneers, Mike Ness18 has a question for us. Is this current Buccaneers team looking as good as the team that John Gruden assembled when the Bucs won the Super Bowl in early 2003? Your thoughts on how these Buccaneers compare to the Buccaneers that you know very well because you joined them in the immediate aftermath of winning that Super Bowl.
Yes, I think that this Buccaneers team and this offense is far more explosive. You know, just with Brady, Evans, Gronk, AB, Godwin, all of that. I mean, wow. It just they've gotten to a point here the last few weeks where I don't know if you can really stop them. I don't. I think it's them messing up is what you have to hope for a little bit. And the way Brady's playing and everything like that. So the offense clearly better. Now defense, no, I can't say that. I mean, that was an all-time defense. That's one of the greatest defenses in the history of football right there. Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks and Rondé Barber and John Lynch and Simeon Rice. Holy cow. They could win games by themselves. As you saw in the Super Bowl, they almost did that to a degree, stopping one of the greatest offenses ever. So I don't think I'm ready to rank them there quite yet, but I think the real thing is, and you just said it, they have Super Bowl champion potential. That's the real thing, and we'll see if they can kind of keep their hot streak going here through the playoffs.
We talked earlier about the Seahawks. Mike on Twitter has a question. If the offense plays like it did earlier in this year, are the Hawks the favorites in the NFC? That's a big if, I think, for the offense to do what it was doing back in the days of Let Russ Cook, which feels like it was a different season, not just a different month. But if they could get that magic back, I don't know if they want to get that magic back. I don't know if they're trying to get that magic back. But given where the defense currently is, if all of a sudden they're throwing it all over the place, if they were, doing a little rope-a-dope and they switched to southpaw and now they're going to switch back, if they could have that kind of impact offensively, yeah, they would be very dangerous, wouldn't they?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've definitely lost their swagger on the offensive side of the ball. That's for sure. Not that they need to put up 40 points and throw it 50 times a game, because you're right. What you're saying, they don't want to really do that. They want to, play a little bit of balanced football and have Russell make some big plays in the pass game. Now they've struggled a little bit that way. They have to find some ways to make things a little easier on the offensive side of the ball. Too much of the offense at this moment is just like, hey, Russell, we need you to make something happen. Run game not really kicking butt. Can't say there's consistently open receivers. They need to do more there. And that's kind of the worry. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's why Pete Carroll, he deserves to be in the Coach of the Year conversation too, with just the hell what he's done with that defense this year. I mean, they were on pace to be one of the worst in the history of football. And then here the last 5 or 6 weeks, I believe they're second in football in almost every statistical category on defense behind the Los Angeles Rams. It's phenomenal transformation. But I do think the offense has got to play at a little higher level than they had as of late if they want to make a run here in the playoffs.
Here's a question from Hawktoberfest. Why are the Steelers lower than the Ravens when the Ravens lost to the Steelers twice this year? And Hawktoberfest, all I'll tell you is this. Right now, if the Ravens and the Steelers cross paths, it would not be 3-0 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's why the Ravens are higher right now than the Steelers. Chris, do you agree with that assessment?
I do. I think the Ravens are going into the playoffs as one of the hottest teams in the game. So, and yes, Pittsburgh, to me, is one of the most fascinating stories going into the playoffs. With Big Ben, is he 100% healthy? And then they played one good half of football, and that's the only good half of football they played in the month of December on the offensive side of the ball. So what I can't wait for in our game Sunday night is just what offense are we going to see from Pittsburgh? Where's this going to go? And I don't think you could sit here and confidently say you think they're going to execute better than the Ravens and some of the teams you got in front of them right now. So I'm with you. I hear you. I think you're totally justified as far as having the Ravens in front of them.
One thing that was lost in all of the outcomes and action on Sunday, Mason Rudolph actually played pretty well. We didn't expect much. So when you set the bar low, it's easy to say we think he played well. But he actually did play well. So if Big Ben would end up having to come out, it's not as disastrous as we thought it would have been. They still
Agreed.
need to rediscover their running game, though. You can't win in January without a running game, and they're going to have to come out and run the ball. They get an advantage, though, with everything that's happening with the Browns. This should be a game the Steelers win, and then the question becomes, can they go to Buffalo, assuming that the Bills beat the Colts? Can they go to Buffalo and pull off a victory there in the divisional round? We saw what happened to the Steelers in Buffalo on a Sunday night a few weeks ago. Last question before we break, as it relates to the Eagles. Dr. J, 144. The Eagles are number 29 in the final power rankings. The question is this: where would the Eagles be if they had started Nate Sudfeld all 16 games? I think we know.
I think we do know from what we saw right there. And well, listen, they knew. They knew. I mean, come on. They knew exactly what they were going to get out of there. They would be 32 probably. I think that's fair to say. Certainly a little lower.
They would be contemplating what to do with Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts and Nate Sudfeld, because there would be a new sheriff in town, and his name would be Trevor Lawrence.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.